Along with picking your main character, picking a server to play on is one of the important choices a player has to make in this game. Progression is saved and exclusive to each server, and there are social and economical differences that are linked with a server's population that players should know before diving in. In addition, MapleStory also offers two very different core game experiences depending on the type of server you play on. To a new player, the differences may not seem significant at first, but as you progress through the game, each server's features will affect your gameplay, so it is very important to understand what each server offers. There are two types of servers which are categorized by the community as regular servers and reboot servers. Most people who play MMORPGs want to play with other players, so it's instinctive to pick the most populated server. However, there are circumstances where one might be better off picking a server with a smaller population. A server's population is typically proportionate to the amount of opportunities a player has. Highly populated servers allow players to meet more different players, which means there are more guilds to choose and join, and more people to party up for bosses and party quests. More players mean a more active economy, which generally results in items and equipment being cheaper to buy and sell. However, a high population means that popular training and farming maps will always be in contention, so they may not be available at any given time. A server with a low population would present the opposite circumstances. Not only are there fewer high-ranking guilds to choose from, but it becomes a necessity to join one and socialize in order to complete any content that benefits from being done with multiple players. The market will not be as active, and selling items can take a while. However, popular training maps are more available on a regular basis and only really fill up during events like double EXP and drop weekends. Servers with medium populations have some sort of compromise between the two. There are more social, economic, and gameplay related aspects that may determine which server is right for you. As a general guideline though, the more players there are in a server, the more opportunities that can be offered. As of this video's release, the most populated regular server is Bara, followed by Scania, then Aurora and Elysium, then the European server Luna. For reboot servers, most players are on the North American reboot server, while the European server has a significantly smaller population. So some players may consider that they would value the smaller population in exchange for more latency. Regular servers and reboot servers can be seen as two different game experiences. The main difference between the two is that on Reboot there is no trading between players, and that you cannot use premium currency to obtain cash items related to equipment or equipment upgrading. This means that regular servers have some exclusive items and equipment that aren't available in Reboot. However, in exchange, items that are normally bought with premium currency are instead able to be purchased with Mesos directly in Reboot. Regular server players are also able to use Mesos to purchase some cash shop items through NPC Matilda in town, but these are more restrictive compared to Reboot. Additionally, Reboot has some special restrictions, such as preventing players from transferring equipment between characters through storage and are only able to transfer Mesos, non-equipment items, and cash equips between characters who share cash inventories. There are also some features that regular servers have exclusively. For example, the auction house, which allows you to sell and purchase items to and from other players, being able to create the zero character, having Monster Life, which is a side farming game that can give you small bonuses to your characters in game, and having the Meso Market, which allows players to trade their Mesos with other players for Maple Points and vice versa. They may also get different rewards from things like attendance, events, and coin shops. The unfortunate thing about online gaming is that there will always be a portion of the player base that don't follow a game's rules in order to try to gain an advantage. Along with Nexon's notorious monetization of their free-to-play game, it can be a core appeal for players to play on a server where none of these factors affect their progression. All characters in the Reboot server have a unique passive skill that can be found in their beginner skill tab. Part of this buff causes monsters to drop 6 times the mesos compared to regular servers, and this multiplier has been adjusted before in the past exclusively for GMS, so it may be possible that it can also change in the future. Players in Reboot also get an exclusive gift box that grants a variety of rewards for their first character that hits certain level milestones. Monsters in Reboot have more HP compared to regular servers, but they also give more experience. The difference between HP and XP is not proportionally the same across all the monsters in the Maple world, but in general, they have around twice the amount of HP and give around double the experience compared to regular servers. These differences make certain aspects in the Reboot server easier or harder, such as Legion training, training on your main, and farming with a soul. Generally, this HP and XP difference means that newer players in the Reboot server will experience a slower growth initially when their characters are weaker, but once they become stronger, this process will accelerate. When it comes to training, characters need to stay within 10 levels above or below a monster's level to maximize their experience and mesos. Once a character is completely out of the level range from a certain training area, monsters will no longer drop meso. This drives a lot of players in Reboot to create a farming character that stays in the level range of popular meso farming maps instead of using their main to farm mesos. Being underleveled also reduces the final damage dealt to a boss or monster, with Reboot having a steeper penalty. This compels Reboot players to level their characters more in order to mitigate the damage penalties for bossing and/or training. To make character progression more streamlined for players, monsters and bosses in Reboot primarily drop equipment that matches with your character's job, while monsters and bosses in regular servers are capable of dropping equipment for any class. Since certain equipments are unavailable in Reboot, players will have slightly different equipment in their mid-game to end-game loadouts compared to regular servers. Upgrading equipment in Reboot is also simplified, as equipment cannot be scrolled or cubed with bonus potential. This means that regular server players with fully upgraded gear will be stronger than their Reboot counterparts. Characters in Reboot are able to have all 3 crafting professions, allowing them to craft equipment and items from any of the professions in exchange for needing to farm all the materials for themselves. In regular servers, characters are limited to only having 1 crafting profession, but despite being able to have all professions on 1 character, Reboot's crafting system is a lot more limited, as the server restricts the crafting of flames and cubes. Instead, powerful rebirth flames, master craftsman cubes, and many other upgrade items can be purchased from general stores with an unlimited stock, and bosses in Reboot have a chance to drop powerful and eternal rebirth flames exclusively. Because of all the rules, exceptions, and restrictions that the server has, Reboot players are rewarded with increased meso rewards across all the game's content compared to regular servers, as well as having better accessibility for upgrading their gear by having cubes and flames readily available for meso directly from the cash shop and general stores respectively. Reboot's progression is centralized around self-upgrading your own equips by design, so players in Reboot have to obtain mesos and equips from their own sources. And while regular server players can virtually do the same thing, they can also progress and make mesos through trading and using the auction house. Regular server players can assess the options that are available to them and determine which of them are most efficient or most effective in order to spend their mesos and time wisely. Therefore, it can be said that Reboot is more linear in its progression compared to regular servers. A situation and factor that not many consider is when a player decides to switch their main character. Regular server players are able to trade or sell their character's equipment for funds, or even transfer their equipment to their new character. This will normally come at the cost of purchasing Platinum Scissors of Karma from the cash shop to make any eligible gear tradable one time. In Reboot, changing your main character can feel like starting from scratch all over again, albeit you can still use mesos and other non-equipment items acquired by previous characters. This is exemplified with time-gated progression systems like arcane symbols, where in Reboot, it is not possible to transfer a symbol from one character to another, while in regular servers, you are able to use an item called the Arcane Catalyst to transfer a symbol over to another character at the cost of losing 20% of the progression. Similarly, leveling up alternate characters for Link skills and Legion in Reboot can feel the same way, whereas in regular servers, you can use one character to supply gear and items to give other characters a head start. With the social aspect of the game being an important factor on both servers, being reputable, joining guilds, and making connections will allow players to access gear earlier than usual by getting into parties and boss carries, which can greatly speed up progression. The core difference between having pets in regular servers compared to Reboot is that regular server pets can provide set effects and can gain extra stats from pet equipment. Since Reboot pets have no extra benefit aside from looting, players have the freedom of choosing any pet as their companion, while regular server players would have to choose from a narrower selection of pets if they wish to acquire the best stats from them. Another consideration for pet choices is being able to own a pet that has permanent duration. In regular servers, players can wait for special sales in the cash shop that allow them to directly purchase a pet package that contains a permanent pet. The only way for players in Reboot to obtain a permanent pet is through cash sales such as Wisp's Wonderberry, surprise pet boxes, and other similar loot box style sales where they have a small chance to obtain a permanent pet. In both cases, the available selection of pets that a player can choose from becomes more limited than if they were to get a regular pet. A huge appeal of MapleStory is the ability to customize your character from a massive selection of cosmetics. The difference in how they are acquired between the servers stem from the no trading rule in Reboot. While some cash sales offers both servers cosmetics that can be bought directly, most of the popular cosmetics are typically found in style boxes and gachapon, which requires NX or Maple points to use. In regular servers, most, if not all cosmetics are tradable, so players who open style boxes or gachapon tickets can trade or sell their excess items to other players. However, in Reboot, players who are looking for specific cosmetics would have to keep purchasing boxes and tickets until they receive the ones they want. Thus, the difference in the prices of cosmetics between the servers is based on popularity and demand between the community versus an individual's luck. Another cosmetic function that players can use are fusion anvils, where it can make a piece of equipment take on the appearance of another equipment of the same type. Again, because of the no trading rule, Reboot players have to acquire the equipment they wish to anvil themselves, so if an item is no longer obtainable, then they cannot get the particular equip anviled. A lot of the differences we have covered were broad statements, so we decided to give our personal opinions and specific reasons on why we picked the server we play on. For me, I started out playing in Scania way back in 2009 or so, but I never took funding my character seriously until around 2014. And in between those years, I've been playing on and off as a casual player. Throughout many years of patches and changes that I've been a part of, the thing that I loved and still love to do the most is figuring out different ways to get rich. The feeling when you find the steal of the century or make a huge sale is probably one of the best feelings you can get in this game, especially as a player who doesn't spend any of my own money in the game. When Reboot was first introduced and it was concluded by the community that it was a more free-to-play friendly server, it seemed like a logical step to change servers, but in the end I decided not to go, just because it didn't suit my playstyle, and I already made a lot of friends and wanted to stay with them.
My MapleStory adventure started out on Windia just before the release of Pirates. Throughout the years the game has evolved. I had taken on and off breaks until the release of Reboot. This server was a breath of fresh air for me, and was the first time I really invested a lot into the game. After a good 4-ish years on Reboot and a change in my personal life, I didn't have as much time to dedicate to the grind as I used to. I was at a point where if I wasn't playing Maple, the back of my mind was telling me I could be doing many other things to progress my character. I decided to take a break from Reboot and set my sights on Bearer. With a long-term goal in mind and where progression can be made at my own pace, I'm looking forward to the challenges and differences regular servers can bring.
I initially had no reason for choosing Reboot aside from the novelty of its release. After playing on it for quite some time, however, I came to realize that I liked the pacing of Reboot's model, and the free-to-play aspect never really meant that much to me. Progression on Reboot feels very linear, and your results are usually based on the amount of time and effort that you've invested. That's something that really sticks with me.
I came back to MapleStory about 5 years ago, and played in the Chaos server. Played for a few weeks, spent a few $100s on Marvel Machine and Gachapon, and promptly quit. I felt a lack of direction or necessity to log in. I discovered Reboot about 2 years after that experience, and I decided to give MapleStory another go. The linear progression gave me a sense of accomplishment. When I hit my first wall, where I felt like, I was killing monsters really slowly, I went to do some link skills, and it pushed me to the next step. When I felt like I hit another wall, I gathered some Mesos to upgrade my equipment. I personally like the fact that I have a reason to log in, to play the game, grind out some Mesos. That being said, I did not expect to be playing this game for this much and this long. The grind just doesn't stop. I don't mind it though.
While there are similarities across both types of servers, the steps that are required to progress through the game and to achieve your goals are very different. It's important to view the differences between regular servers and Reboot servers as not necessarily a good or bad thing, but rather that each server has a different playstyle. There are ways to navigate through each server's circumstances, and knowing which playstyle suits you better is important for your enjoyment of the game. In the end, these are just different ways to play the game, and neither side should feel that their way of playing is superior to the other. While this guide does not cover every single difference between the types of servers, we hope that we have provided enough information for you to make a decision. Thank you for watching this guide brought to you by MesoGears. If you would like more detail on any of the subjects discussed in this guide, check out the description below where we put more resources and references for you to discover. Would you like to help with upcoming videos? Join our Discord server to participate in discussions and get updates. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video for more comprehensive Maple.